You know, laws shape pretty much everything we do every single day. But have you ever really stopped to think about where they come from? It's not as simple as just one person making a decision. It's way more interesting than that. So today, let's pull back the curtain and take a look at the actual blueprint for how a nation's rules get made.
Yeah, so where do our laws come from? It seems like such a simple question, right? But the answer is actually pretty deep. To really get it, you can't just look at the finished product, the law itself. You've got to go back to the very beginning, back to the original architectural plans for the entire country.
All right, so let's get into it. Section 1, the nation's blueprint. You see, every stable government is built on top of a foundational document. It's like a master plan that lays out all the rules of the game. And that document, that's the Constitution. And there it is. That blueprint is the Constitution. Now, look at this definition here. It's so much more than just a list of rights for people. It's a framework of rules. And its main job is to divide power and define relationships. So in other words, it sets up the entire system of government and dictates exactly how it's all supposed to work. And you can really see just how detailed this blueprint is. I mean, the Constitution, it doesn't just create government bodies out of thin air. It specifically defines their powers, it sets the rules for how they're supposed to interact with each other, and maybe most importantly, how they interact with us. And get this, it even includes instructions on how to change the blueprint itself. It's really designed to be a complete self-sustaining system. Okay, on to Section 2, three branches of power. Now, one of the most important features of this constitutional blueprint is that it's designed to not put all the power in one basket. Instead, to create the system of checks and balances we hear about, it carefully splits that power up among three totally distinct pillars. And here they are. First up, you've got the lawmaking body. This could be a parliament, a congress, an assembly, whatever it's called where you are. Their job is to pass legislation, and we're going to focus a lot on them in a minute. Then you have the executive, the president, the cabinet. Their job is to enforce those laws. And finally, you have the judiciary, which is the court system, and they interpret the laws. See how each branch has its own job? That whole design is meant to prevent any one part of the government from getting way too powerful. All right, Section 3, meet the legislature. So for the rest of our time here, we're going to zoom in on that first branch. We're going right into the engine room, the place where our laws are actually created, the legislature. So what is a legislature? Well, this definition from Mazie really nails it. Let's break down the key parts here. Predominantly elected. Okay, that's huge. It means they're supposed to represent us, the voters. Acts collegially. That just means they work together as a group, not just a bunch of individuals doing their own thing. And the most important part? They have the formal power to enact laws. That right there is their prime directive. But here's the thing, making laws is just one piece of a much, much bigger job. Legislatures are also the main stage for debating big national issues. They're supposed to be a watchdog, keeping an eye on what the executive branch is up to. They control the purse strings by setting the budget. And all of these jobs, every single one, is done in service of what's supposed to be their most important function, representing the public interest. Okay, Section 4, the power to make law. So let's really dig into that primary job. I mean, what even is legislation? What does that word really mean? Well, believe it or not, the clue is right there in the name. It's actually surprisingly simple. The word legislation comes straight from two Latin words, legis, which means a law, and latum, which means to make or to set. So literally, it just means the making of law. It kind of shows how some of these really complex ideas have super simple origins, right? And that power to make law, well, it's massive. It's not just about writing down rules on paper. As you see here, it's the ability to thwart, encourage, or compel actions. We're talking about shaping the behavior of everyone, people, companies, even other parts of the government itself. That's real power. And this brings us to an absolutely crucial point. A law can be suggested by all sorts of different people or groups, and the process to get it passed can be super long and complicated. But at the end of the day, for any proposal to become a real valid law, it has to get through one final gatekeeper, the legislature. They hold the ultimate key. So, Section 5, two types of legislation. Now, it's not quite as simple as just one lawmaking process. The laws that actually come out of a legislature usually fall into two main categories, what we call primary and secondary legislation.
Okay, so on one side, you have primary legislation. These are the big ones, the major laws, the statutes that are passed directly by Parliament or Congress itself. Then, on the other side, you have secondary legislation. This is when the legislature basically delegates some of its power to other groups, like government agencies, so they can make more detailed rules. You can think of it like this: the legislature writes the main story, the big chapter titles, and then lets the experts fill in the specific paragraphs. So, look at how it all connects. It all starts with that master blueprint, the Constitution. That blueprint creates a legislature. And that body, which is filled with elected representatives, is given the formal, official power to build the entire legal framework that we all live by, from the blueprint to the final rules. So, this whole system, from top to bottom, is built on one huge idea: that the legislature represents the public interest. But that leaves us with a really important final question to think about. What does representing the public interest really mean? And when you get down to it, whose interest is it anyway?